Bang, bang.
Sucio Talk. Sucio Talk. I'm over here like fucking with the screen. That's all right. We're recording. Boom! Look at that.
Look at that.
A YOLO box live.
Ooh.
Background.
I'm literally so impressed by this. Ooh, look at that. Teal colors.
So,
I like.
There you go.
Boom.
To edit it though, because when people get mad at me, they're like, "You're on the opposite side."
Oh, it meshes with your colors of your logo. I like that. Bang. Listo.
Okay, aquí estamos. Sucio Talk. Gabriela,
what up?
How you doing? Latina G
Latina
on Instagram. I love that. What do you think of that?
I'm really glad. Well, I think Latinos respect this. That you say Latina G, whereas everyone's like, "Oh, Latin ag," and I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Well, you're in agriculture, right? And you're Latin," and I'm like, "That is not at all how I've ever perceived that."
No, Latina ag.
Latin ag.
Wow. Okay.
Latin ag, and I'm just like, I mean, I guess it makes sense because it is agriculture, but no, Latina G.
Right. Well, you know what? At least you found a way to get the white people, because sometimes they're like Sucio? Sucio? Yeah. And then I'm like, I got to explain it every time. But I told myself, I'm like, fuck it. You signed up for this. You're going to explain it for the rest of your life. But
but if it was Italian with the ch sound, there should be a double C.
Right. Exactly.
So
there's a guy.
I don't think they understand their own rules.
There's a sommelier. He was eating at Charter Oak, and he's like, "Is Chef Sucio here?" He asked for me, and they're like, "Sucio? Who's that?
You don't work here."
Yeah. I was like, "You thought I was Italian and my last name was Sucio?" He's like, "Yeah." But here we are. So, radio DJ. How long have you been doing that?
I've been a DJ since the January 2018.
Mm-hmm.
January 2018 was when I started. And I've been through a couple of different iterations with that. I started off like as a weekend DJ, moved on to the morning show when we got into a new studio space. And then, it was funny because when the fires happened in 2020, I was talking with the owners. They're Latinos. They came from Los Angeles. They've worked for like MTV, Univision, a lot of different like big corporate media places. Right. And, whenever the fires were happening, I was like, okay, somebody needs to be giving this information in Spanish. And I'm in a position to be able to do that. And it just started getting a whole other conversation on, well, where are people getting their information from, like 24/7 in Spanish, you know? A lot of the communication at that time for the wildfires was all in English. And there was this like huge gap of time that went by when the Spanish speaking community and all of the Valley of Napa just didn't have any of that information. It was sad. I saw some family members that were like sleeping in their cars. They were too scared to go to some of the shelters. Right. ICE was a big topic of conversation at that point. Just a lot of different things. And it started a conversation on, hey, we should really think about taking one of the formats that they owned and flipping it to Spanish. Yeah. Conversations continued. And so me being on the English radio station for the morning side ended up turning into was it 2021? I think so. When the owners and I sat down and they're like, all right, we think we're ready to flip our AM talk radio to actually be full-time around the clock Spanish. Like, are you ready? Like, do you really want to do this? And I was like, hell yeah. I'm not going to lie. I was a little nervous because I was like, oye, the real Spanish speaking community is going to be like, ¿Y quién es esta pocha? Who, like, some of her words don't make sense. There's going to be some Spanglish in there. I'm like, am I the right person? Like, now that we're here, are they going to be like, ella no se escucha como el piolín de la mañana, you know, who's got his Spanish like
La mega.
But then I was like, you know what? Like, this is who I am, you know, and I think that there's so many other people who can relate to, like, you have kind of grown up in a household where your mom understands, well, she speaks to you in Spanish and you respond in English. Right. And, you know, there's just like that Spanglish dialect. So I was like, all right, let's run it. And here we are 2 years later producing the morning show. I produce all the content for it and I'm the honor personality for it in the morning. So
that's crazy. Exciting. So what is the hours of the show?
7 to 10.
7 to 10.
7 a 10.
So what time does a radio DJ get in to do a show at 7?
6.
6.
Yeah.
Oh,
6,
so
6:15.
1 hour. Okay.
1 hour, I can just like pull all my information. But like when I go home at night and I'm just like sitting there, you know, I'm thinking about things. So it helps me out in the morning.
You're always writing?
It's always writing. I feel like my ears are always on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm ear hustling constantly because anything can be una plática, right? You go to the grocery store and I remember one time like there was like an awkward exchange between somebody like putting down the divider and somebody not. So then it's just like, who's responsible for that? Or like you could pull content out of anywhere, out of someone's conversation, a movie you saw, like anything. So yeah. So about an hour's worth of prep, but I'm always on.
Okay. And then ¿cuánta hora do you play music?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So
the whole thing is 3 hours of music. And then, you know, every, I don't know, maybe like 7 minutos, every 7 minutes is when I'm just like interjecting with some kind of content, something relatable, maybe like a news update, especially with like so much Latino music really being spread across the country globally, right? Like Bad Bunny has been Spotify's most streamed artist. Well, he got dethroned this year by Taylor Swift, but yeah, he did. But for the last 3 years, it was him as like the world's largest global streaming artist. But yeah, Swiftie fans, you should be proud. You guys work hard. So.
They definitely do. It's like a whole cult. I'm down with it.
There is. I'm down with it too. Like, I'm not a negative Swiftie fan.
Right. Yeah.
I grew up listening and then stopped, and then she came out with some stuff that I liked. I think you just ebb and flow like any artist. If you fuck with one of their songs, and you're solid.
Right, exactly. I'm into the Detroit rap right now.
Okay,
that's where I'm at.
Okay, really, I think I was taking a look at. Didn't you post your Spotify Wrapped? Online?
Yeah. And it was just like Real the Young OG and MC Mike, and that's it. It's like it brings me back to mixtapes in the Northeast. In New York and Connecticut, we had a lot of mixtapes, and it was just like gritty, went to the store, bought a bag of chips. It's like, shit like that.
Lifestyle.
Yeah, it's just like life shit. So I'm like, it's fun and the new beat that they got going on is even going into Latino music. Peso Pluma has songs that have that kind of melody. And there's another girl too that does like Spanglish rap. I think coming out of Puerto Rico, I'm pretty sure. But
okay, Boricuas.
There you go. Doing it.
That's the exciting part though, right? Is like you're getting such a like variety and mix of genres as we all become cross-cultural. You get your first gens who are kind of like born into both of these spaces, or just anybody else. Like there's like a blend of like music and sound. You see a lot of more people like fucking with, corridos tumbados, which is kind of like the category that they place Peso Pluma in.
You're right.
You see like Bad Bunny created, his like trap reggaeton, urban Latino music with, Grupo Frontera. So there's a little bit of like regional Mexican sound vibes. People are just trying to be creative. And I think it's so great because then you get music that you never would have expected. And you're just like, whoa, like this is dope. I like this. Dope.
Same as happening with food. Because now you have a lot more mixed couples that are bringing these cultures together that have never been.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still waiting to meet somebody that's Indian and Brazilian or something like that.
I'm like, sure they're out there.
What is that food, bro? That's going to be, you know what I mean?
So and I'm like, sure they're out there.
They're out there. Come, be a chef. I don't know. Maybe not everyone should be a chef, but it will happen at some point when the world grows into a population that can house all that.
But it's fun because you get all these different flavors, right? Same with like music. One of my really great friends is half Chinese, half Nicaraguense.
Oh
and so and so you get this really cool blend of like spices and flavors, but you also get an understanding of history. It's funny because I think back and I'm like, I don't think I remember anything from my history class or really paid attention, because then you start learning about like migration patterns and why there's such already like an Asian influence in Latino America or like an Irish influence in Latino America. Right. And when you understand the history behind that, you're just like, oh wow, this makes sense. But you get some really cool flavors.
This micro. Hey, there we go. We found it. That actually happened to me for one whole podcast. I put it out anyway. I didn't give a fuck.
I love it.
But it's all good. Sometimes the cops will come by, or actually there's a train that comes by right here.
And you hear
in
it?
The street. Yeah, it's like really fucking loud.
Like the Napa Valley wine train just ruins everything when you're doing it.
Does it come on in the show? Do you listen?
Not on the show, but sometimes if I'll be like out and about downtown areas where you have the train. Yeah.
Flick. Wow. Tourists just on that train.
Yeah.
I actually, we should mob that train one day.
I've never been on that train.
We should like, pick 6 months out, get the community in there, and just like Latinos on the train, just be
take it over,
yelling out fucking at 29 and shit. You know what I'm saying? Have straight party. They brought Bluetooth speakers. I don't know.
Instead of a party bus, it's a party train.
Exactly. Hey, whatever.
I'm down for
strength in numbers, Yeah. So radio DJing. What does so you get your content? Do you have a DJ? You have a DJ who plays the music, or are you playing the music? Okay.
Yeah. So I'm producing the music ahead of time, working with one of the owners because it's a couple. And so Julissa, working with her on just like what that looks like. And then that music will play on a clock that just naturally rotates into each song. And we kind of set that up for 24 hours a day, just out ahead of time.
Right. How far are you out?
I think you can do like 2 weeks.
Okay. And then the program, like what program is this?
We are running on Wide Orbit.
Wide Orbit. Is that like a radio industry normal thing to use?
That's a really good question. It's my first radio job and I kind of just like landed into it. So I've never seen anybody else's setup, so I'm not sure.
Okay. So do radio stations not talk to each other?
No, we're so competitive.
Oh, right. Because I guess it's all journalism at the end of the day, right? And journalists don't rep journalists. But maybe you can be that journalist.
The little cambio, yeah.
Yeah.
The liaison between everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I love listening to other radio stations though, just like seeing like the banter. One of my favorites is 99.7, the morning show. They've got the love trap on in the morning and they're just like where they trap Bay Area cheaters. And it's just wild to hear some of these stories.
Bay Area cheaters.
Yeah. So like, let's say, you and your girlfriend and like one of you le está poniendo los cuernos al otro. They'll call in and, say like why they think their person is cheating. And then Benny, who's like the main focal point for making the calls, will like call the partner and be like, I'm calling from a plant shop and you get free flowers. We share, data with other local businesses. So I don't have any of your information. I just have your name and your phone number. We're a new shop. Like, do you want to go ahead and, get free flowers delivered to you? And if it's like, let's say it's a dude, right? Cause sometimes there's females who are cheating. Most of the time it's heterosexual relationships, but they've also had all different types of relationships on there. And when they end up being like, oh no, like I don't want any flowers. Let's say it's a dude, right? He's like, I won't take any flowers, but I'll send flowers to someone. And you end up seeing that they choose like the side piece and then the girlfriend's on the line and she's just like, why would you send flowers to somebody else? Blah, blah, blah. It's just hilarious.
Whoa.
It's like my little respite throughout the day to just get something really funny.
Damn, that's crazy. How long is the show?
Their show, I want to say they're on for like 4 hours, but that's just a tiny segment. They do it every day at the 45 of every hour. Okay.
And then while you're doing it, you're producing everything. Is there anybody in the room? Is there anybody there supporting, or are they kind of like, hey?
No, I do it solo. So it's really hard.
That's fucking
I would
badass.
Love to have a co-host.
A co-host.
I would love to have a co-host because sometimes it's easier to have banter and conversation, right? But to carry a 3-hour show and be interesting enough on your own.
Right. You're doing it, right? Shit.
I'm like, hopefully I'm interesting enough. It is difficult, especially when like you just have to figure out like how to relate to your audience and like what content is going to be interesting. So I look at everything. I'm like constantly looking at articles, surveys that came out, different websites, trying to pull different pieces of information to see like, what do we want to talk about? What do I want to talk about? Cause it can be hard a little bit of times. It's nice personally to like be in a space by myself where it's like quiet, right? When I'm off the air, I kind of just like think about maybe some other things that I might want to talk about. I do have guests that come on my show. So one of my favorite days is the first Wednesday of every month. My homegirl, Cynthia, who owns La Cheve in downtown Napa. We started doing this as a way to bring a lot of love to her business. She'll come in and once a month at her business, she'll have a DJ come out and they sort of do like Rolas brunch. And so she brings in that DJ in with her the first Wednesday of the month at around 9:00 in the morning. And for a full hour, I'll have him take over and showcase his mixes so that people can, maybe if they want to book him for a gig or something, like he can just show his talent. And then her and I will be bantering about just like whatever la vida nos va a traer, right? We'll talk about like the specials that she has, just anything random. Sometimes I'll put her in a hot seat and I'll try to quiz her on like the history behind like her building or just like random stuff. Like she has like a lot of, hard liquor. And I remember one time I was like giving facts on tequila and trying to quiz her how much you know on tequila since she carries tequila. And it's just interesting to see just the banter.
That's cool. Yeah. Hell yeah. And so I saw you're head of an organization out here with wine in the Napa Valley. Yeah.
So it's technically based in California and in New York.
Okay. New York, California.
It's called New York and California. Yeah, it's called Hispanics and Wine. And I'm on the board of that. But the co-founders are Maria Calver and Lydia Richards.
Okay. And they're in New York?
One of them. So they both used to be in New York / DC area. Lydia just moved here. I want to say it's probably marking close to a year now. She moved to Santa Barbara, switched jobs and is now working for Kendall Jackson full time. But then both her and Maria, we run this bi-coastal organization that really just supports any Latino who wants to enter into the wine industry. We also wanted to create a hub for Latinos to connect with one another. That way you don't feel so isolated, right? I think
because your family is just like, ponle hielo. You're like, what the fuck?
I mean, hey, I'm never going to judge anybody for how they want to drink their beverages.
Carlo Rossi, baby. Shout out to you. Someone should have him on a podcast if he's still alive. He might be dead.
I'm not sure.
Maybe Carlito Rossi.
Maybe that would be better.
Yeah,
who knows? More relatable? I don't know. A ver quién sabe. But yeah, so it's an opportunity for people to just connect. Together, we all co-founded the Latino Wine Summit, the LatinX Wine Summit.
Damn.
And it was the North America's first conference that highlights Latinos in the wine industry.
Damn.
And we tackled that from a lot of different directions. You know, one of the biggest things that we bonded on and how we met was through my podcast. I interviewed them because I was so excited to find Hispanics in Wine and be a member, and then ended up getting onto their board once like the nonprofit portion like went through, paperwork was signed, all that good stuff. But we related on to like when you go out into market or in the world, like you don't see people who look like you, right? And so you're like, when you find someone, you stick like chicle. You're just like, hey, where are you from? Like, what's your experience been like? And it feels relatable. And so we were like, all right, me being born and raised in Napa, my dad, was an immigrant from Mexico, started off working as a farm worker. And one of the biggest things that I've just always noticed is Latinos aren't really represented or given visibility unless it's the physical labor force. And even then they don't get enough credit or representation, but that's sort of the box that you're placed in. And it's like, there are very few, but there are Latinos in sales, Latinos in marketing, Latinos in the tasting room. And it's like, we don't get to share those stories. There's Latino entrepreneurs who are making their own wine.
Right.
And obviously the wine is such a saturated market. So it's just like, how does a small business owner Latino compete against a conglomerate like, Constellation or Callo, or things like that. And so it's like, how do you learn to tell these stories and like provide light and visibility? And so the conference was really around, one, connecting Latinos, but then two, giving them the platform that they deserve to have these stories shared, to talk about, what makes their business successful. Some of these people with their businesses that they've grown, it's been like 40 years in the making. Their grandparents came, with the Bracero program. A lot of people don't even know the history of how so many Latinos and immigrant farm workers came into Napa Valley in like the early 60s or so. And so it's like also educating people along the way, educating ourselves too, because I think sometimes we don't understand our own history.
Yeah.
And so it was just a really big celebration around that. And it was really exciting.
That's dope. When's your next event?
2024 is the proposed goal.
Okay.
Yeah. The last one in person was 1 year ago yesterday. And then how we originally started was virtual in 2021. Because of the pandemic.
Then you were like, let's do this.
And then we were like, fuck it, let's do this in person. Like, we need to go.
I would love to go. Yeah, you can say fuck. It's fucking Sucio Talked.
I was like,
motherfucker, fuck. We're not on the radio. It doesn't matter.
Facts.
Yeah.
Although I still say a couple of these sometimes, like, it's in Spanish. Who's going to understand it?
Que se joda.
Que se joda. La madre.
Yeah, exactly.
A la madre si no el desmadre.
Some people tell me that I swear too much on the show or whatever, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. Some people tell me I swear too much for a female, and I'm just like, I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Certain words that just don't have the emphasis like other words.
Right. And then some people will say, they're like, oh, well, if you say that word too much, it loses its meaning. I'm like,
I don't think
I've been saying it for years and it still hasn't lost its meaning. You know, like just put some feeling into it, you know, like what the fuck? Like reignite my relationship with fuck.
There you go.
It's crazy. Fucking okay. So this wine summit, these ladies, you start this. How many people are in the organization? Are you looking for new members? Like what?
Yeah, so anybody can become a member. Okay. It's really just a hub for people to get connected. And then online, you can go and look at scholarship opportunities. We do a lot of things for like WSET. We have opportunities too where we work with writers. So getting more Latino voices into journalism.
Oh, no way.
Writing pieces around also to other different countries and what winemaking looks like in those regions, right? Trying to bring more representation to wines from Mexico, wines from Argentina. One of the founders is Colombiana. So like, let's also talk about just like wines from Colombia, just like everywhere, so that it's not always, not that there's anything wrong with Napa Valley. Like that's my home. I love it. But Napa's always been like this, you know, put you on a pedestal. This is the only thing that wine can be.
Right.
And everything else is like garbage. And it's like, no, like there's so much good wine out there.
There's so much,
and it's such great price points too, that you're just like, holy shit, like this is fucking fantastic.
Yeah. Shout out to Bay Grape in Napa. Do you work with them a lot?
Bay Grape, Stevie Sankonis. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Stevie. I don't work with them in terms of like, we've never done an event together, but I do love to go there. I love to support her. They do so many awesome different events. She also has a shop here in Oakland.
Okay.
Bay Grape. I've been to that one before. And then they have a restaurant called Mama Oakland, which is like an Italian restaurant. And I think that
Mama
came
Oakland.
first. Yeah, they're Mama Oakland.
Oh, no shit. Okay. The connection to Napa and Oakland is getting bigger and bigger. There's a lot of weekend people just go up to like Calistoga. Yep. Shit like that. So I'm excited, you know.
And a lot of people too from the Bay Area who are like, fuck it, I want to go open up my business out in Napa, you know? I just went and celebrated someone who opened up a new wine shop called Vin Noir. And she's a Black woman who wanted to open up a wine business out there, a wine shop. So that was really cool to just go in there, see what her setup looked like, taste some wines.
Yeah.
She's also sourcing wines from other people and trying to showcase them. So I thought that was a really cool thing.
Damn. So the wine, I thought 10 years ago that wine had reached its like, hey, it is what it is. Yeah, exactly. And it's almost having like a renaissance right now with all the natural and, you know.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, I don't know what it means. I mean, some of it tastes like apple cider vinegar, to be honest with you. But
some of it tastes like ass.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, thank you for saying that. You know,
straight booty sweat. I'm like, what is this?
Maybe there's people that like that flavor, and so maybe there should be a different classification for that kind of funk.
Yeah, you know? Or if you could call
it
wine, because I think then it opens it up, right? It's just like you can have stinky cheese, but it doesn't mean it stops being cheese. You know, at the end of the day, it is wine. There was a conversation, though. I went to a conference out in Texas called Texom. Really, really valuable if people are interested in the wine world. You know, I recommend getting into that. But they were talking about how do we change the conversation where like wine has always kind of been known for coming from grapes, but it's like it could really just be any kind of fermented fruit. So coming from like blueberries and things like that.
Blueberry
and I was
wine.
like, I'm open to anything, but at the same time, I was like, would I drink it? I don't know. You know, I don't really dip into the orange wines because I think the flavor is a little weird. But it's not that I have anything against that. You know, to each their own palate, which is what I'm always preaching to most people. It's like, you like what you like. Like, don't let anybody tell you that. I think that's the negative side about wine is there's been this like pinkies up. You got to know it before you can enjoy it type of like
ethos.
Feeling and ethos. Exactly. Perfect word. And I just don't think it should be like that. It's just like, let people relate to the wine in the way that feels relatable to them. You know, don't be like, oh, this tastes like gooseberries or something else. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck a gooseberry is. I'm sorry. So I don't know what a gooseberry is going to taste like. And I'm like, but you know, this tastes like tamarindo to me. Like the relerindos that I used to eat as a candy as a kid. I'm like, I'm getting a little bit of that. I remember one time somebody was like, no, that's not the flavor you're supposed to be getting. I'm like, who are you? I'm like, this does taste like that to me. You know? And I think that's the negative side of the industry, where you say, you know, there's like this almost renaissance, rebirth sort of element. I think that's being driven a lot by people who are looking to not make the industry so stuffy, to try to open it up, to have a much larger conversation, make it a little bit more inclusive. Whereas like you have people who are much older, definitely skewing more white, who like want things to remain with tradition. And I'm not saying tradition is wrong, but it's almost in a way where it's gatekeeping. You don't want to allow certain people in or certain conversations in about what that can look like. And I think that does it a disservice, because you look at, I was reading this report with, who was it with? The Wine Market Council, this really intelligent man who leads it. His name's Dale Bishop. And they were looking at statistics around beer, spirits, wine. They had a whole panel on younger consumers and the millennial category on what are your drinking choices, beverage preferences, and like wine is such an afterthought for so many people because they can't relate to it.
Right.
You know, they're just like, you want to explore beer, and most beer cans will have like a really cool logo on it, tell you what it's supposed to taste like, blah, 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 blah. All wine looks the same and is overwhelming if you were to walk into, you know, Safeway or something like that. Yeah. And then you look at the back and it's like, it doesn't tell you anything about it, what's inside. And how disappointing is it if you open it up and you're like, I just spent $60 on this, and it tastes like booty sweat, you know? So you're like, I don't like this.
It's usually a story about somebody's grandpa, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Which I love. I love storytelling. You know, I think there's a lot of power in storytelling. But it's also like, how does the wine industry change so that you can open it up, have much larger conversations, bring people in. I think you can do that through food, through experiential opportunities, right? Especially as we were talking about, I've hosted a lot of events for wineries, since that's like what I focus on in the wine industry part, where people are like, we need to remain traditional, like steak, potatoes, and Cabernet. And I'm like, I could probably make this better at home, and you're putting a $300 ticket on this. Like, that's not exciting to me. You know, I saw that you had Sean on one of your podcast episodes.
Sean, what up?
Yeah, Sean Street. And I got so excited because one of the dinners that we were hosting was around like Merlot, and Merlot has gotten a bad rap, but it's such like a historical, traditional grape varietal. And I was like, yo, I want you to like do a dinner with me. Let's collaborate. And I want you to just showcase your roots, like Trinidad, Tobago, like, let's go. He's like, how far into this can I lean? I'm like, all the way. I'm like, all the way. I don't need you to water this down. I don't need you to like try to, you know, make it approachable to the white Eurocentric palate. Right. I'm like, go all in.
Go crazy.
Let's like bring in an educational element on like how this relates to like comfort for you or reminds you of home. And literally, it was one of the most widely celebrated dinners that I've hosted. This is specifically with Duckhorn. It was one of the most widely celebrated dinners that had happened with Duckhorn. And there are some club members that we have who have attended like dinner after dinner after dinner. And just like the response that we got, like at first, I think people were very like,
what the fuck?
What am I about to eat? Yeah. Or they're looking at the menu, right? When they sit down and they're like, oxtail terrine. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
And they're like, you know, where's my steak and potatoes? And it's like, I'm not going to do that to you. One, that's not interesting to me. I don't get excited about planning something like that. I want to like have your mind expand. Like maybe you wouldn't walk into a restaurant and order that, but first of all, you're in my house, you're sitting down now, and I'm going to take you on a journey of something that will blow your mind and introduce you to somebody who deserves this recognition, who is really fucking exciting to work with, and have you just think about food and wine and pairings completely differently than what you think it should be or what you've been taught to believe. Because again, it's like this standard that people like rinse and repeat because they think that is what it's supposed to be, when it's like, the whole point of it is to have fun.
A lot of people forget that.
Yeah.
In anything, I mean, I think even you at times with radio probably forget, you know,
that's true,
for 30 minutes a day, maybe, or like when it's like you're doing that monotonous shit where you're 100%. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You
when
know?
I'm like, I don't want to do this today.
Right.
But you got to be like, yo, come on, Navos. Like,
exactly.
What's up?
And
then
like,
as soon as I get off break, I'm like, but see, nobody sees me. I'm on the mic, so it's all good. I can show up in my pajamas and ain't nobody going to know a thing.
Yeah. That's the struggle I have with the podcast, because it's like, sometimes I'm just not feeling Sucio, you know, and it takes a lot to have a good conversation with someone and keep it locked in. You know, my mind is racing. Like, I got a dinner tonight, you know, I just started a new job. So I'm like, but at the same time, I think I'm now learning that this is the place where I can come escape everything, versus like nothing matters right now except for this conversation. And so that's why I'm gonna get curtains in here, because I want it to be like its own little
only
spaceship.
This world.
Yeah, it's only this world. Yeah, and like have cool lights and shit. That way, it's like an experience.
100%.
You know, because The old way that podcast became successful, I think, is going to start to change. And if you don't have, like, if you don't keep up with the times as like a showman, then you're not going to get there. You know? Like,
you got to be interesting at the end of the day.
Exactly. Nobody's going to, or have interesting people on. We're just talking about hard people to talk to.
Yeah.
Why the fuck am I going to have them on the show?
Yeah. It's like pulling teeth sometimes. I'm like, give me something to work with.
Right. Exactly. And speaking of that, here on Sucio Talk, we take it all the way back. So, where were you born?
So St. Helena Hospital.
St. Helena Hospital.
St. Helena Hospital, born and raised.
Fuck right now.
I haven't been there in a while, which is probably a good thing. So.
You got out just in time, bro. I went over there for a cut finger. They're like 9 G's. I'm like, what? For some stitches?
What?
Yeah, and I gotta say though,
how was their stitching game?
I mean, it was good, and I walked in. I didn't have to wait in the waiting room.
Oh, that's.
I just walked in. They gave me water. Really good hospitality at that hospital. You know.
I mean, if you're in Napa Valley, if they better.
Yeah, and their heart doctor invented some shit that they use worldwide today.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's like basically, they take your heart, and sometimes it's like a series of nerves, like shooting electrical currents that let your body know what to do and shit, right?
Oh, my gosh.
And so that's just the dumb way of explaining it because I'm a cook, right? And so basically what he did was sometimes that wiring isn't working right. Mm-hmm. So what he would do is sear the heart, like char it with something, like burn it to create walls so that the electrical currents would go the right way and make the heart work the right way that it's supposed to.
Yo, I thank God for people who want to do that work. I'm like,
not me, baby.
I was like, no.
Right? But that's cool to know that that little hospital has a lot of talent coming out of it. You know, that doctor, 100%. You. So you're born, you're out of there. Did you grow up in St. Helena?
No, that's expensive as fuck.
Right.
Yeah, no. I grew up in Lake Berryessa. Yeah, in a trailer park community. I had a lot of family out there. I would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Right? Yes.
Yeah.
I would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, have to hop on a bus at 5:30 that would drive all the way out there for all the other, Latino babies that had to get on.
Right.
And it was a 2-hour bus ride to school every day.
To Napa?
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Well, St. Helena. So I went to St. Helena schools.
Okay, got it.
Because if you imagine like having to stop at everybody's house and you're one of the first ones to get on because they go the deepest and then pick everybody else up on the way. I was in the deepest part. And so it was like, then you're on it for 2 hours winding road.
So the bus had to like reverse out of your street. Couldn't turn around.
There was a loop. Actually, they waited up top and I would have to walk up my little loop. There was like a little hill and meet them on like the main, more society level type of place.
Got you. And then went to St. Helena schools for your whole career?
Whole life, graduated from St. Helena High, shout out St. Helena High, and then went on to St. Mary's out in Moraga.
Okay. And so St. Mary's out in Moraga, what did you major in?
I majored in business administration with the concentration in international marketing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that like your interest, your passion? Did you want to do that?
Not at all.
Or you were like,
no, I didn't even know where to go to school, to be completely honest with you. And my mom laughs now. At the moment, she was not laughing. I was really overwhelmed. My parents never had the time, Latino immigrants constantly working. So they wouldn't have the time to go take me to visit all these colleges. And I remember my high school counselor was like, well, the best way to figure out where you want to go is to step onto the campus and then you'll have this feeling of like, which one's the right one. I'm like, that sounds great and all, but like, I can't afford the opportunity to go do that, drive, take a flight, all these other things. So when I was getting my applications back and letting me know like all the schools that I made it into, which I will toot my horn and say I didn't get rejected at all from 19 schools. That was very overwhelming to me because I didn't know where to go. And so I put them all in a hat and I literally picked out of a hat.
Oh, fuck yeah. That's a good way to do it.
I was like, Diosito me va a mandar where I'm supposed to go. My mom was like, don't bring God into this. And I was like, are you always talking about things are meant to be?
Coin toss.
She's like, this is not a good decision way of making it. I'm like, Mom, what do you expect me to do? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And they gave me great financial aid. So that worked out too.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So you went there. How was school?
School was great. It was fun. I think I tried about every single thing. That was back when Matthew Dellavedova was there. And so, basketball was really exciting. I think he was on the Cavs, but I don't know who he plays for now. Interesting. I'd love to know. You know how trades work.
Right.
So school was great. I actually originally wanted to major in this nonprofit civic sort of track degree that they had with a minor in sociology. I've just always been very much about people and helping out and seeing what I can contribute to the world. And my mom was like, I am not helping you go to the school for you to come out making no money.
Right.
And I was like,
you're like, Mom, it's nonprofit.
Yeah.
She's like,
yeah. She was like, explain this to me, you know? And
can you explain nonprofit? Because like, I don't understand it to this day. Is it that your company doesn't file and make money because it takes all the money and funnels it back into the company?
Basically, like you have to get grants from the state or the federal government, and that's how you pay your employees. That's how you pay for your programming when it comes to whatever it is that you want to offer, right? So there's a really great organization in Napa called the Napa Valley Farm Worker Foundation. They do a lot of workshops to educate a lot of the Latinos who are working out in the vineyards on like computing classes, financial literacy, even understanding like winemaking processes.
Right.
And so to do that, you need to have funds. You can have private funds. So, right, like a private donor giving $1 million, or you do a lot of like grant writing. And so you're seeking funds from the state, from the federal government. I'm sure there's other avenues that I'm not remembering at the moment. But yeah, basically you cannot make money off of anything. So like when we did the Latino Wine Summit, Hispanics in Wine is a nonprofit organization. So while we were charging for a ticket, that all went to then be donated towards funding scholarships for Hispanics in Wine.
Right.
We didn't keep any of that money. And luckily, all of our vendor partners who we worked with were
donating
time all of their time and stuff.
Right. So. See, that's what I was telling you earlier. That's what I am not good at.
Yeah, neither am I.
Right. We'll get there.
We'll get there. Yeah. So my mom was like, hell no, like no vas a hacer esto, you know? And so I'm like, fuck, like, what do I do? Also, she told me this like at the end of my sophomore year. So for the last 2 years, I've been on this degree track to like get my civic track degree and taking my sociology classes. And I'm like, it's junior year. What the fuck am I supposed to do? Like, I can't afford, my scholarships only last me for 4 years. Like I can't afford to not graduate in 4 years. So I like had to go meet with the counselor, figure out like what were some of the basic classes that could apply to something else. And she was like, look, just do me a favor. She's like, take business. I was also the first in my family to go to college. She's like, just take business. She's like, I'm not saying you have to do something in business. She's like, but at least like have something that later on can be applicable to so many other things. And then if you want to go work for a nonprofit, she's like, you can, but at least you have a degree that might land you in a better position. So life's just funny because it's like, I use my degree now through like experiential marketing opportunities with Duckhorn and like events and like sponsorships with Bottle Rock and things like that. But my passion and so much work that I do outside of that, I've like found with working with the Hispanics in Wine nonprofit, or just doing other things. So I think it was a good lesson looking back. But there's always a struggle, you know, to be the first in your family. There's like a lot of pressure. You're just like what you're supposed to do versus what you want to do.
Right.
You know, when I graduated, I went straight after the money because was what my parents told me. It's like, we work so hard, so like you don't have to struggle. But I was so miserable, you know, I was so miserable. I was like, I can't do this. I actually started working for Target right after college. I was managing the operational losses for the $35 million store in Fairfield. And I was trying to track like, where are we losing money from products on like product that's not being delivered, that we have inventory for, that's not actually there, so we can't sell it. People actually stealing, internal employees stealing, which was a very awkward thing. I was like, I'm a people person. I don't want to fire anybody, but like that was what I had to do.
How many people did you fire for stealing? Like over 10?
Over 10.
Over 10
over
people.
10 people.
What would
in
they
the
steal?
2 years that I was there.
What would they steal?
Money. So the people who were like
money,
handling like
up.
cash, products, you know, cell phones, a lot of like clothing for some reason. Like I
Did
would
they
see
think
them.
they could get away with it?
I mean, I'm assuming so. You
Were
know,
they caught on camera?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Absolutely.
So you would review the video?
I would have to, I'd have to spend a portion of my time reviewing footage. And then when I would see it, I'm just like, fuck. I'm like, I don't want to do this.
How much time is allotted to review footage a day? And how do you know what you're looking for?
It was up to me. I don't know what I'm looking for, but I would set up cameras in places where like I get data reports, right? So I would see, this is what our sales should look like based off of products that it says we've sold, because I don't have the inventory for it. And then when I would see like the numbers are not matching, then I would like position the camera and make sure that like I could like, Yeah. And then also you can set up sensors. So you can set on the system, like for it to ding or like mark on the video camera, like hours where like there was movement. So I would just like quickly like scroll through. If it was people walking by, like they're shopping, like you can usually like go out of that. I would usually look at it during the hours of when I know there aren't guests in the store, when it would have to be with somebody who is internal. So you see like, you know, the overnight crew who's restocking, the early morning crew who's restocking, the early morning crew who's counting the cash to get all the registers set up, things like that. And they paid me well. I was making $100,000 coming out of college as a fucking 21-year-old.
Hell yeah.
And so for me, it was like,
Security
great.
guard.
I had a team for that who would like stop people. But I was
you'd be like, he's stealing. And then they come beat the shit out of him.
No, they're not allowed to do that. No.
Oh, just escort. You don't get like in trouble. You don't get arrested. You just get fired?
You do get arrested, and then you go into a room, but then the police has to come, which was funny because most often than not, like police officers don't come out for anything that's less than like $2,500.
Right.
And so like you just end up letting them go. So it's just kind of like, it was this thing where it felt very performative. It's like I'm stopping it, but then it doesn't really matter, and you can just come back in again. So it was different. Yes, some people are ballsy though. Like I would see people walking out with like carts, like customers, and I'd be like, "Where the fuck is my team?" Like looking at this person just like walk out. Nobody on the register is just going to see this person with like a whole ass cart walking out with like gadgets and anything. I actually got picked up and thrown up against the wall one time when I was trying to stop a guy who was stealing a cell phone.
Way.
Yep.
Thrown up against the wall.
Yep.
Did you get any like reparations for that? Did they give you like an extra $500?
No.
Are they just like, are you okay?
No.
Target sucks.
No one said anything.
How long did you work there?
I worked there for 2 years.
Okay,
and after my second year, I was like, this is like, I'm not even happy doing this work. You know, I'm like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, the money is not worth it.
Yeah.
So then I left. And then I came back into the wine industry.
That's very dope. Okay. So came back into the wine industry. How? What'd you do?
I actually chose to utilize my degree and started working with Felix Solis Avantis. They were trying to have a Spanish footprint, so from Spain, and get people to start drinking Spanish wine. So they're a Spanish wine importing company, and they'd never entered the United States, and they bought an office in Napa, and were looking for a marketing director at that time to like help them figure that out with the national sales manager and director. And so together, we were a team of 3. It was very small, very like boots on the ground, trying to help figure out like how are we going to attract the American consumer, let of all the Napa Valley consumer to think about Spanish wine versus wanting to buy, you know, your Howell Mountain Cab. And so you just look at a lot of like data trends. And at that time, red blends were really picking up in that category. This is maybe 2017, I think 2016, 2017. And the red wine category was picking up. So we're like, all right, like let's utilize Tempranillo to educate people. It was a beautiful wine, garnacha, but make it a blend with maybe a little bit of cab or something. And so it's like we had out in Spain, they would go ahead and make the product. And then we were trying to get it in. The first bottle that I actually put out in market was called FYI. I didn't choose the name, but my marketing, not my marketing director, my national sales director thought it would be an interesting way to like get people to be like, FYI what? So that I had to figure out like how to, you know, make it applicable. And it was like, you just come up with different creative shit. Like you're just like for your inspiration or, you know, just like find your, I can't remember what I said. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm getting into like, what is marketing? Kind of like
so many things,
right? You just throw ideas together. That's a cool field
See
to work
what
in.
Sticks. Exactly.
Shout out to them though, also too in that industry because I didn't know how big it was and how much influence. I mean, they literally influence
or marketing,
just marketing.
Oh, everything is about marketing.
By marketing.
Everything is
movies,
about marketing.
Like, and then now as an adult, you used to look at movies and you're like, look at the product placement. Like, they're being real blatant right now.
And you can tell when like somebody didn't get dollars from a company because like they won't show the label of the bottle. But when you can very visibly see what wine they're drinking, you're like, somebody definitely got some dollars for that.
I would like to see, and maybe we can bring this into the fold, like entertainment being made without so much need for a marketing team, right? Because I feel like there's a lot of restaurants that are amazing, but don't have money for marketing. So they're not doing well. They can't get people on the door. And, you know, sadly, that's why these places close.
Yeah.
So if you just made it a little bit easier, and that's what I'm trying to do. Like I have a phone number, you know, you could literally call that shit and say what your event is, and I will play that shit. No, you don't need to pay me nothing.
Ya escucharon, eh? You got it right here.
I've been on here saying this shit for like a year, and nobody called. I'm just like, okay.
You're like, all right, you don't want me to let them know about your event.
Keep paying $1,000 for your Facebook ad. You know what I'm saying? Like
that shit's expensive, too.
Bro.
Yeah, or boosting things on like social media.
Yeah,
that's
but you got
$2,500. You know, and I'm like, damn.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. But that's why I was telling you, you know, to get sponsorship, you really gotta get a big ass company like that that's got dollars in the
and have them see your buy-in. Like, why is it worth me investing in you?
Exactly.
Right? So you gotta figure out what is it that they need that you can provide, and have there be like an equal exchange, because nobody's gonna give you anything out of the kindness of their heart, you know.
Right, exactly. But I'm like, even like TV personalities like Sway, for example. Like Sway, when he started MTV News back in the day, like what was his interview like? Right, it had to be that he just tried really hard to get the job, and then they, you know, because it was like the start of that. There's always hosts on TV and shit, but that was the first time where it was like kind of like teenagers doing the news.
But what I really respect about Sway is he uses his platform now ever more to promote up and coming young artists. So
exactly.
And he'll let them access that platform for free, you know? And that to me is everything. It's like,
that's cool.
If you work so hard and hustle and now you have this platform, like why would you not, understanding the struggle of what it takes to have, you know, that representation and that voice, and have people like know about you, like why would you not want to help out other people, you know? Like it must be so lonely to be up at the top by yourself. Like why would you not want other people up there with you?
Right. Sadly, that's mainly why, you know, people go down after a while. Like they'll be on top and they think like, this is it. Like it's going to be like this forever. Yeah, and then it goes away. And I think the best people, the most successful people know that even though you have a win, like that can't be all, you know, it's like you either spend your days telling old stories or spend your day making new stories, you know, and if you don't fucking do that, nobody's going to come do it for you. Yeah. And so there's a lot of people that when I was on the road trip for the podcast, they'd be like, oh, must be nice. And I'm like, what do you mean must be nice? Like I am putting myself out there. I have no place to live. The only thing I have is my car, and like the money that I'm putting into this it's not smart to be like out here doing this, but I just knew that it had to happen. Yeah. So I just did it. Yeah. And I didn't think about it. And I feel like if people do that more, they'll probably get a little further than they are, or they want to get.
100%. People always see the success and like the shiny, the glam, whatever, like in the, you know, awards or recognition, but they don't know all the hard work that went into that. They don't know that you're living out of your car with like minimal equipment. Yeah. They don't know that you're working 3 jobs and then you do this on the side, like sleeping 3 hours, you know, and it's just like, if people really understood what it took, then I think that they would have a different perspective of things. But it's like, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, but it's not easy. It takes like the hustler, you know? And I think that a lot of Latinos are, especially now, trying to become entrepreneurs in different ways, because we were raised with the type of culture of like, you just fucking work hard, you know, and you make it happen. Nobody's going to spoon feed you anything. Like you got to go out and put in that work. And I have mad respect for so many of my friends. One of his names, Chris Rivera. He has a brand called Seis Soles, and like this fool hustles up and down California. Like we're talking like Inglewood one day, and then we'll literally be in Napa because we decided to have a meeting together the next morning. And I'm like, bro, you drove in the middle of the night, had like zero sleep, and then he drives back the next day because he's got a pouring event opportunity somewhere else. Yeah. And it's just like, that's just what you do. Like first gens hustle a little differently.
Yeah. He's enjoying the act of the hustle, right? Versus the spoils of the hustle that he'll have, you know, whenever. Because when you get the riches, and I work for these super millionaires, right, in their home, personal chef, and you realize you're like, you're not happy. I don't want to be unhappy. You know what I mean? Like I'd rather be broke and happy than have all the money in the world and unhappy. So at the end of the day, it's like, okay, how do I have both?
You know this is like, but I don't want to be broke. But I definitely want to be happy.
Exactly. And so, you know, I think me and you are on the same page where it's like, okay, how do you go out there and say, I'm worth this much just for showing up? Yep. And I think, like I used to work at Meadowwood, and whenever you wanted chef to be at the event, it was like an extra 5 G's or something like that, you know? And it was like to be like, and it's not like for him, it's for the business, but I'm like, that's fucking ingenious. you know, like that's how it should be. And I feel like sometimes we're too in hustler mode to understand that we're also a boss.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do all the things and struggle through it. You can be like, okay, here's money to this person that's going to do that for me, so I don't got to struggle.
That is so true.
Yeah, and you just you kind of stay in the poor mentality of like, well, I got to do everything.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I don't want to say it like this, but this is why white people win. Because white people got no problem being like, hey, do this for me.
Unapologetic about it.
Yeah, hey, do this. And it, you know, and I'm like, that shit works.
100%.
You know?
But also our cultura, I can only speak for myself because, again, I don't know how you were raised. But like in my family, it's just like, you just give gratitude that you're there for the opportunity, right? And so when you think of yourself and diminish the value that you're actually bringing to the table, because again, my parents are two immigrants, right? They were just happy to get whatever opportunities were afforded to them. Make yourself as small, like don't cause problems, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, now I'm like, I'm the exact fucking opposite. I'm like, fucking disrupt the shit out of this, you know? Like make people see like why you deserve to be there or do things differently or whatever, and get yourself paid. But it's been such a challenge for me to recognize that about myself and value that in myself, especially I think this last year has been like the most revelating moment. Is revelating a word? Yeah.
Revelating. Well, make it a word.
I'm like,
revelating is the new word.
Just like to have that, you know, revelation and be like, oh my gosh, I deserve this. Right. And I think a lot of it has to do with the people you surround yourself with, right? Like your community, who that chosen family is, who are the people like when you're doubting yourself or you're valuing yourself at this, or like, fuck no, like you deserve way more than this because you do blah, 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 blah. Like this year there have been, I can think at the top of my head, 3 different opportunities where I got paid 5 times more money than what I was planning on asking, simply because the people who were in my life at that point were like, why are you valuing yourself so low? And I'm like, oh, I thought that was already high. Right. And they're like, are you kidding me? Like, look at what you can say about this and this and this. It's like, I don't think about myself like that because sometimes I'm still stuck in that mentality of I should just be grateful I got the opportunity.
Right. And we can't continue to act like that when we get a spot at the table. You know, we need to fucking sit there and be like,
go those out. Just like, I'm
go
here.
Those out. Like, take the last fucking chicken wing off the platter. You know what I mean? Just like drink the last of the wine.
Everyone's looking at that sweating like I want it, but who's going to go for it? Yeah.
And just do that shit, because it's like, even the people that wanted to do it and don't do it, they're going to feel good and be like, damn, he just took that chicken wing. Like, I wish I was like that. I wish I could do that. And you can fucking do it. And there's nothing wrong with it, you know? And honestly, I don't know about you, but I got further by not listening to my parents than you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
There's some things that they would say to me. I love my
parents,
like,
but yes.
Exactly. Because they'll be like, oh, you know, I told my dad, I'm like, I'm leaving this restaurant. He's like, why are you leaving? I'm like, because it's time to go. It's like, you know, they were raised differently. So if you have a stable job, you fucking stay there. But it's like, I knew that I had more in me. So it's taken a long time to be able to show that, you know, and be like, and you kind of then question yourself. You're like, well, are you proud of me? You know, like, like, is this not what you had in mind? But I know it's probably a little better. Right.
Have you gotten to a point with your parents where they look at you now and they're just like, I am so proud of you? Yeah,
they definitely are. And they have been for a long time. Like, I could have been, a shopping cart guy, you know, and they would have been like, cool. Like, he makes money, fucking takes care of himself. Yeah. Great. But I think that they are happier for different reasons, because I'm an adventurer. Like, I'll go somewhere by myself with no plan and just do it, you know, and like, they don't have that. And you misunderestimate how much you affect other family members that are afraid to do it, because they look at you. And like, I know one of my aunts who is not really in my life like that. I see her maybe once every 6 years, but she was like, you're very special to me, you know, because like, she sees me fucking doing all this crazy shit. And she's like, that's so cool that you're doing that. So people are watching, even though you don't think they are. And even though it may not be very apparent that you're maybe famous yet or whatever it is, like, there's a lot of people in the community, a lot of little Latina girls that look up to you and they're like, damn, like, I could be a radio DJ, you know? They look at me and they say, damn, like, you could be a chef podcaster. Like, you could turn around, have this whole career over here that's, whatever, and then move on into something different.
I can get paid and travel to a different state,
Exactly.
because I just can't. Yeah, 100% agree with that. I had a similar situation come up recently where my little cousin, he came over from Mexico when he was like, he has a crazy story. When he was like 6 years old, and my tia and my tío were living with us. We were all living together in Calistoga. And I remember like we lost him when he crossed the border with El Coyote, and like it was like we had to drive to LA, try to like find him and like figure out like whole ordeal. But like seeing him graduate maybe a year ago, and seeing how much he's pushed himself, and I couldn't attend his graduation, but he called me during that moment. I was speaking with him, and he's like, I just want to say like, you've inspired me so much because you just go out and you do your own thing. And he's like, and I just want to be able to do things like that and just travel and like get up and leave. And I'm just like, I would have never even known that he's been looking at me like that this whole time, and like, and it hits you in a certain type of way because I'm just trying to fucking survive out here, honestly, and just figure out like, how do I make things like keep moving so that I don't feel stuck or stagnant in my own life. And then to like, be like, oh shit, like, yeah, the decisions you make impact others around you to that sense where they can feel inspired. My mom can come up to me and be like, I don't understand, same thing, like how you just pick up and go and like you have no idea like where you're going or anything. She's like, I wish I could be like that, which is interesting because, 20 years ago or whatever, that was not the version of my mom that I had growing up. And it's I don't want to be in this box, and I don't want to just stay in one place, and to each their own. Again, I have a lot of empathy. Whatever situation works for you is what's going to work for you. I know, my parents' upbringing was very different, and they act the way that they do out of survival. But for me, it was like, I don't want that life. I want something that's adventurous. I want something that is going to challenge me. I want something that just has no boundaries.
Right. I fucking beautifully said. Beautifully said. There's a lot of parents out there that they're not trying to stop you from doing that, but you really got to show them, and that is the hard work, because when I started this podcast, they're like, they never were like, no, don't do that, and my mom actually, champions Sucio. She's like, oh, that's my son.
The hype woman.
Sucio. You know what I mean? She doesn't, and I know some other moms would be like, dirty. You know what I mean? It's like, nah, don't fuck it, And I remember I got a letter one time from this dude I used to cook for. One of his family members wrote me a letter, and he was like, you shouldn't really use the moniker Sucio because it's dirty it
dirty
doesn't
talk.
Yeah, dirty in the kitchen, like people are going to think of you as some dirty chef or whatever it is. And I'm like, you don't get it, and it's okay that you don't get it. Like the world's got what, fucking 8 billion people. I only need 1 Billy.
Yeah.
I'm good. The other 7 can fuck off.
Exactly.
It's fine.
Yeah. You're like, my people will get it.
Exactly.
And maybe I'm reclaiming my power to use the word, For people who are like, it stops giving it meaning when you use fuck so much. Well, you know what? Maybe I'm going to give meaning to Sucio that means something different.
Exactly. And so, Sucio's a state of mind, baby. It's just the act of doing whatever the fuck you feel like, whenever you feel like it. Yep. And caring about people in the process, Fucking crazy.
Keep it raw.
Yeah, baby. You got to, because that way there's too much editing going on. Do you edit your radio show?
No, my radio show is live. Yeah, I edit my podcast mostly because like I can't handle the ums when I'm listening to people talk, and so I wouldn't want anybody listening to my podcast if they cringe just like I do. Yeah. So like to that extent, I'll edit it, or like dead silence because I want there to be a flow in the conversation.
What do you use to edit?
Adobe Audition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
But the radio show is live, so when I fuck up, I'm just like, shit.
Audio only for the podcast.
Audio only. When I first started out in 2020, I was putting a couple of videos on YouTube, but the iPhones just like immediately don't want to work when you have so many videos, and it's just like the storage space is so small, and I'm not going to fucking pay money to have more storage. Like I'm just not one of those types of people. I'm like, fuck it, I guess we're not doing this anymore. So I just need to invest in different type of equipment, but I haven't gotten there yet.
Right.
For now I'm like, let me just put all my energy into the audio version.
Honestly, the audio sometimes gives you a better way to do the interview, because a lot of people don't want to be on camera. They get crazy when the camera's in front of them. They're like, how do I look? Like, I'm going to put my hands, and they're like,
yeah. Chest out.
Yeah. So I'm just like, I don't care. Like, and my mom will roast me. She'll be like, hey, stop touching your nose, or hey, stop doing this or whatever. And I actually am touching my nose. I actually had a guy reach out to me that thought I might be good for a TV show, a cooking, not a cooking show, but like a tour show where they went to different stadiums, food, like a
food, like ballparks,
stadium. Yeah. And you just eat the food there. And then I sent him this video that I thought was amazing. And he's like, nope, not good enough. Like, you did this, you did this, you did this. And I did like 10 takes, you know, just like trying to get it. And ultimately, no callback, no nothing. And I'm like, damn. But
to your point, how many people can then feel relatable when they just see somebody doing their thing when you're not editing it?
I learned that through Truffle Shuffle. Because when you show up to a cooking class with a chef coat, people are like, oh no.
Shit, it's intense.
Yeah, but when you have a T-shirt on, totally different.
Exactly.
It's like you got that mom energy.
Exactly.
You know?
The mom energy.
Yeah. Honestly,
that's how I feel about tasting rooms. You know, when I walk into places where everybody's like looking like they're going to church or something, I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is my vibe. But then when you're at places with people in jeans and they're just like hella laid back, I'm like, these are my people.
Right.
I know that they're not going to be all like, and using language, you know, that then I'm like, yeah, I could code switch, but I really don't fucking want to. And I just kind of want to be myself.
Right. I think when you find an avenue to be able to be yourself, I think that's the best way. And also that there's also nothing wrong with not hustling and having, and having a 9 to 5 and doing whatever you do for fun. Like, hey, if playing video games is your thing, do your thing.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. Be careful with the little indent thing.
Yeah,
like
exactly. That's what I'm scared of, you know.
No, but really though, like I keep saying, to each their own. Everybody's going to determine what works for them, and nobody should be judged for that. Like people should just be able to do whatever the fuck they want, as long as they're being kind to others.
Right, kind to others, not hurting people. You know, I think that's a common law. That's what we're coming down to.
The golden rule.
Yeah, exactly. What are you? Where are you eating in Napa when you're out?
A lot of tacos.
Okay.
It's just like quesadillas are my jam.
Tanias or trucks?
Trucks. There's La Esperanza right off of Sosco. Is it Sosco Avenue? Yeah, Sosco Avenue.
Okay.
Kind of like down the street where like this old movie theater used to be. It's just they have like the best quesadillas I've ever had.
Okay.
Actually, there's another chef too who's out here from Oakland. I think his name's Chef Green. He was at this event that I did with Sean at Lita called Sabor Lita, where we wanted to showcase, again, influences of, you know, Caribbean food and how it has like Black and Latin influence behind the food. And so we did like this whole event around Juneteenth for that with Chef Mimi, who does the Black food and wine experience throughout the Bay Area. Super amazing.
Right.
And that guy was there, and I think his name's Mike Green. His quesadilla tacos were phenomenal. So he's around this Oakland area in case anybody wants to Google or Instagram.
I'll check that out.
His name, yeah.
Hell yeah.
So usually eating quesadillas. ¿Qué más? What else am I usually eating? I don't know. I'm very picky when I go out because I don't want to pay for things that I feel like I can do better at my house. Right. And that's not anything negative on a chef. It's like I won't buy salmon at a restaurant because I have a certain way that I love to spice my salmon. I love it almost like jerk style, you know, with a lot of like spice and things like that. Maybe some cheesy grits or something. So I won't do any of that. I'll usually just, I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, you're in Napa, and I figure, you know, you're in that chef scene with the wine and all that. So, but it seems like you spend a lot of time in Walnut Creek.
I do, and so I don't know if you know this, but I live in Sacramento. I live in Midtown.
Oh.
Yeah. So
you drove all the way down here to be on the show?
Yeah, for you.
Wow. Damn, I'm honored. That's crazy.
Yeah, I woke up at 6:30.
God damn.
To clean my house before I left.
Okay, well, this is a good one, though, I got to say.
Good. Because I'm not like radio silent.
You could tell when I'm trying to get to a space because like when you first came, it's a little awkward, right? You're like, first meeting, we're like, but I'm trying to figure out a way to have that opening conversation away from the show, but then not get too far into stuff because
you're like, wait, say that for the podcast.
Exactly. Cause I don't want to say that either. Cause that's like kind of fake too, you know?
Yeah.
And so I just want to have the conversation, you know, as casual as it can be and as calm as it can be.
Yep.
And also for people to know that when they sit in the chair, it is my show, but like you're here too. So
it's just a flow.
Yeah.
Conversación.
Exactly. Cause sometimes people will just wait for you to ask stuff and you're like,
Give me something.
Yeah, if you were talking like normal, what would you be saying? Right
exactly.
Now? You know, it's not a. But
this mic isn't here. We're on a coffee date or something.
Exactly. A little coffee date. You know, what do you order on a coffee date?
Well, if it's Starbucks, it's a caramel macchiato, but normally it's just like a nice cappuccino or like a vanilla latte. You know?
Oh, really? Very boring.
I'm the kind of. Well, I don't want there to be like too much like sugar or sweetness, but also I can't take my coffee black. I need like a little bit of crema in there. So
right. I do a double shot mocha.
Okay, mochas are good.
Mocha, extra chocolate.
Mochas. Dirty chai's also delicious.
What makes it dirty?
The espresso.
Oh, and like a chai tea, like a chai tea, and they put espresso in it. Mm-hmm. Whoa, why? Who thought of that? Where's it? Like, is that just a Starbucks thing?
No, it's not a Starbucks thing. I usually just get that. I actually don't think I've ever ordered that from Starbucks. Something like local mom and pop coffee shops. If they've got chai, they've got espresso.
Where do you go when you're not at Starbucks?
The Napa Valley Coffee Roasting Company.
Okay.
Model Bakery.
Mm-hmm. I like Red Bay. What is it?
Is that a Napa?
I think it's in the Oxbow.
Oh, I haven't been there. Ritual Coffee is really good.
Or Ritual, never mind.
I like Ritual. Yeah, Ritual's good. And I also go to the Oakville grocery store.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, like when I'm having to go to like Duckhorn, like furthest north.
Yeah,
I'm at Paradox in Yountville. Yeah.
Dope. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So what are your like plans for the future with the show, and like where are you looking to take this? What are you looking to do? Will you always live in Napa Valley?
Well, I live in Sacramento.
Or Sacramento, I'm sorry.
No, I'm so open to moving. Yeah, I have this conversation with my partner all the time. I'm like, are you open to moving? I'm actually open to moving out to Spain. We've started kind of looking into things. Don't ask me what I'm going to do. No plan, nada, but just like lifestyle over there. I actually studied abroad in college at St. Mary's and lived in Rome for a whole year.
No way.
And I would just like travel to Barcelona. Like tickets are like $40 to get there. It was so cheap. But like the lifestyle in Spain is just like so laid back, so chill. I'm obsessed with paella. So I'm like, I really want somebody to throw a paella and Pinot party. And nobody's doing it, so I think I need to end up doing it.
You need to do it, yeah. Paella is one of those things that, like, you, as a chef, being like, I made paella, it's like barbecue.
But
like,
I've heard it's like really, I don't know how to make fucking
It's
paella.
really good, but people like spend their whole lives making it, and
it's a craft.
Yeah, that's why as a chef,
you can make it so many ways: seafood, meat based, just like, but it just tastes so good.
Yeah, it really does.
So I'm like down to move anywhere with the show specifically. The good thing is like you could take that anywhere, right? Especially if you invest in some great equipment, make yourself mobile. What I really would love to do with the platform though is turn it into like a multimedia platform. For the last like year, I've really, and I don't think I've said this out loud to anybody, so hello. For the last year, I've been talking with a couple of my friends on almost creating some kind of food wine type of show. YouTube, I don't know if that'll be the platform. I really don't know. I would love to like sell it to a network. I don't know people in that space. So I don't know how I'd make that happen, but hey, we can manifest anything, right? It's the power of connectivity.
Legit, I'll do the Sucio segment.
I was gonna literally when you were, or you said something earlier, and I was like, me and you were talking later on about a little bit more of this.
Yeah, hell yeah.
But I would just like love to just like have hella Latinos, different homies, all people of color. Like that's what my podcast is all about. I don't think we have enough representation when it comes to the work that we're doing, just platforms in general. But just like in Latino culture, there's so much community around like a table and like being able to share food and drinks and all that. So I just love to kind of deconstruct that in an environment where we're just kind of hanging around, but doing like little interviews or something along those lines. It's all fleshed out in my mind.
I love that.
I think that would be really cool. I started doing my podcast live with an audience earlier this year.
How do you do that?
So, well, I have the radio station, so the owners let me use the space, and there's this specific space that we call the garage where like the door literally flips up like a garage, and then it's just like an open room. So Mike sets up there. My homie Jose helps me produce all like the electronic stuff so that I can just focus on hosting. And yeah, just do a little setup with the CS, get the interview going, have a mic set up for a performance. Most of them have been with musicians, which I love because then people can come out for a mini performance, but it gets some intimacy again, talking with them. So I'd love to do more of that in 2024. So if there's any, Latino, Black, Asian, whoever musicians, hit me up. Would love to feature you, bring you out to the radio station. It wouldn't be through the radio station because I'm the owner of everything that has to do with Big Sip, but I love that they let me use that space. It's just like a really cool vibe, you know, do giveaways and invite certain people to come on out. Very intimate, maybe like 20 people max. But I've usually featured a lot of like my Latino winemaker friends so that we can pour their wines. People can get exposed to wines made by Latino vintners, and just be able to provide some representation across a lot of different areas.
All right, we're doing Sucio Talk live.
Okay, you should.
Because I'm trying to do it weekly. And so I think the best way for me is like a comedy club.
That would be dope.
On industry night, Monday nights.
That would be dope.
You know, just like every Monday, we're fucking live. We got a different chef. We got a different wine person. We're talking shit. We're having fun, you know, and then make some money for that establishment. And then the best thing about it is at the end, we could be like, yo, we're going to this bar as the after party. And then through talking with the community of bars or whatever, if your bar like is slow on a Monday or whatever,
we'll come drive traffic.
Yeah, we'll come fucking mob that shit with like 40 people.
That'd be dope.
You know,
I'd show up.
Yeah, and just
I'd drive
like
from Sacramento.
You know, influence the community in that way.
Yeah. And just provide them something different, right? I think that people aren't getting as creative with like how to engage an audience, right? Not everybody, you know, especially getting older, like you're not in the club scene anymore. You know, you're like, give me like a sexy sultry night, somewhere where I can go get a little intimate, maybe learning about somebody, but there's still like a vibe. I can drink, I can eat some good food, like whatever, you know, just kick back.
Right.
I don't need the I'm like, God, my back hurts.
Right.
It's 10 o'clock. I want to be in my bed.
That's true. And honestly, they still play the same songs at the club.
Yeah.
It's nothing different unless you go to like a techno club, but even those, it's like, okay, what is this song called? You know, it's like the same shit over and over again. Yeah, I can't sometimes. But yeah, fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. I'm excited. What are you hoping for the podcast? But yeah, besides that.
I'm hoping to go live, and I'm just hoping to like sell out like stadiums and ballrooms with like chefs that you would never imagine would be on the show, and connect like, you know, for example, I'll just use his name, but like have like a Daniel Boulud, and then like the guy who makes the quesabirria tacos on the same show.
I love that.
You know, like Daniel Boulud comes out, and then have this kid sit in the panel, and, you know, Daniel Boulud can ask that dude questions about making tacos or what the food is, and they can vibe on that. And it's people that would normally not get together. And it's like, that's what I'm looking at.
That'd be dope.
That's what I want.
Because also, that's an opportunity where you're like a connector, because you don't know what opportunities would then make it for somebody else, you know? And that's like what I'm all about. Is I love connecting people and seeing sort of how you can provide opportunities when other people get to meet and be like, maybe I have some resources that you need right now, or maybe you have some resources that I need. And it's like all collectively just rise.
Hell yeah. We got to do it out here. If you guys are in the wine, if you're Latino,
food, arts, whatever.
How can they find you? Where can they hit you up?
LatinX. I'm just kidding.
Latin agriculture.
Latin agriculture, yeah. On Instagram, I'm on @LatinaG. That's my only social media platform. I'm not a social media person. That's the other difficult part about promoting the show. I'm just like,
you gotta hire.
I know. Gosh. And you know what? If you just want to work with a hella cool person and make a little money, not a lot of money, because I ain't rich like that, you know, or just want to help a sister out, hit me up. I would love to, you know, receive that support and see how I can improve that side of the business, the brand. So yeah, Latina G on Instagram. And I think that's the only way people can get a hold of me. Oh, or at the Big Sip series, which is the podcast.
The Big Sip series.
Yeah, you can get that on Amazon, Spotify, todo.
Okay.
Everywhere.
Got you. Heard that. And then the radio station dial?
Radio station is 1440, 1440 AM.
Oh.
If you are not so old school that you don't listen to AM, you can get it on 96.9 FM, or you could literally stream us anywhere. You just go to kvon.com and you can take that shit with you. In the car, while you're showering, be graced by my voice.
Some Latin music.
Some Latin music. Yeah, we play all genres. That's like my favorite part. Is it's like I grew up, you know, with like rancheras, cumbia, los bukis is how I knew I had to clean up on Saturday morning, you know. But then you've got your trap music. You've got Peso Pluma. You've got my girl Karol G, Shakira. Like anything. It's just like a huge. We call it Megamix because it is just a mix of like a lot of different fucking Latino sounds. Rock, Juanes, Maná, Café Tacuba, you know. whoever.
Hell yeah, chef. I love that. So she's cooking it over there on the radio station. This has been motherfucking Sucio Talk. We're going to win the James Beard next year, 2024.
Yes.
Hell yeah. We're doing it. Peace, everyone. Thank you so much. Cuídate.
Appreciate you.
Nos vemos.
That's a wrap.
That's it.
That was fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun for sure. It's nice to.
I'm usually on the other side, so that was really fun.
I just want people to have fun, man.
As it should be. No, that like legitimately though, like